All right, welcome back to In His Mind. I'm just doing this real quick. I had to sit through this and think for a couple minutes on how to best present this because this is a problem for the younger generation mainly, not for the older ones. And it's verified. I can verify this just for the sheer number of men who I've talked to and the comments that I've read left behind as far as what happened to them in their relationships. As I have told other people multiple times, you do not hear the ones who are successful in a relationship and in marriage. They are offline, they're happy, busy, dealing with life and whatever it brings. Working, kids, supporting others, pursuing passions. And this is strictly involved with two things: marriage, relationships, but also with the changes that have happened, that have challenged and have almost removed marriage. It's like, if you can separate men and women, this is going to happen right here that's presented in this video. All right, I will link the original down below.
For the men, do you guys still want to get married?
I think what you're asking is, do you want to be married? And I think that a lot of men would say, yes, I do want a partner to spend my life with. But when you say, do you want to get married, I'm not sure if you're keeping in mind all these extra...
Keep in mind the board. Check out the board and what's on it. There's some things on there that are not really talked about much, for very good reason, due to the algorithm.
steps that come before and the possible ones after. Here's a guy living in a cardboard box with his ex-wife in his house with other men. You have to keep in mind that happens with roughly 1/3 of new marriages, and that's only for the men who have the opportunity to get married, which is contingent upon a bunch of steps that have changed quite a bit over the years. So in order to get married, you have to date, and in order to date, you have...
Oh, excuse me. To get married, huh? The requirements to get married. This will actually change upon who you're talking to, from what I hear. Some prefer to have a lavish marriage, while others don't really care about things that much.
Have to work and make money, and in order to work and make money, you have to go to school, and men have been facing a lot of new difficulties in all of these areas over the last few decades. So, do I want to have a partner? Yes, but do I...
I'm going to pause here for a second. So, let me put this up here in perspective. When it comes down to marriage within the church, they talk about stuff with scriptures and what the man should do for the wife. Maybe once in a blue moon, they're going to talk about what the wife should do for the husband. But that's not really talked about much. That is important, though, because there are responsibilities within a marriage that are not really present anywhere else. They do not talk about things like partnership. They do not talk about... They don't keep things one-sided. That I will at least thank the church for doing that, by having this be like a group participation. Like, this involves everyone, even if it's mainly focused on men. The problems, though, there's a lot that goes into it. It's suspected that the framework, and there's a word for it that I don't want to say, the framework of this country has been changed and shaped by the laws. You can see those in effect with men's testimonies going through the family courts. I cannot verify that because I've not been through that. Apparently, when it comes down to women, I'm usually just kind of ignored, with the exception of the older traditional women who are very polite with me, and we can actually have some decent conversations. So, yeah, it's just the younger, modern women. There's a difference there. But yeah, the church as a whole, these problems and issues are not addressed. Probably because they're not recognized and brought up. All right, moving on.
Want to go through all of this again? Not right now. So you want to get married, you have to date, you want to date, you have to work, you want to work, you have to go to school. This is where a lot of male problems begin. I'm not saying that schoolgirls have it easy, but The last few decades, schoolboys have been treated like they are defective. In 3rd grade, I used to finish my work before the
I actually talked with my sister who has a couple of kids, and there is some support with what is saying right there. But they didn't go into details. So, and my sister is offline. She doesn't go on YouTube or anything like that. So, like, I could ask her, "What do you think about this?" And she would say she does not go on YouTube. It's probably the way it should be. Wives and moms and kids, they don't need to be online, with the exception of games, work, finances, and schoolwork. The internet is too big, and there's too much on it to handle when you are at a young stage of life.
kids, and I would get up and move around, and they told me that was not okay, so they medicated me. When I got a little older, the other boys would start fights, and I went to the authorities to do the right thing, and they punished both of us. So then I took matters into my own hands, and they punished just me because of these policies. They don't let boys just fight it out anymore. Those types of policies are not setting young boys up for success. They punish the way that we natively look at the world.
As my father said, set yourself up for success. Fake it till you make it.
Definitely messed me up a little, and that was 30 years ago, and I have no idea what's going on now. When we get older and go to college, there are all kinds of things in place to help girls that are not available for boys, and they say that it's there to correct problems, but I don't think those problems exist anymore. So as we are accumulating what we need to succeed in life, boys are getting less of a head start.
Keep in mind, I'm going to keep some of my personal views off of here, but I do not agree with everything on here. Most of it is accurate. Most of it I can actually verify, backed up by others with what they're saying with this, because of the comments that I read, the men who I've talked to, and all of that. I have even talked to some women who've been burned. Like, there's a lot here that can check out if you look into it.
And they used to, which is, I think, one of the contributing reasons for why they say they have Peter Pan syndrome, and they never grow up. I think it starts here. When we get into the workplace, there are similar programs that benefit women and not men. And that's an issue because women want to make equal money to men, but then they also want men to make more and support them, and you can't have both. Additionally, the culture has become very inhospitable towards men, and again, the way that men...
This is going to change depending upon where you work and what you do, and whether women are actually in the same field or not. The more risky, the more dangerous it is, the less women you'll see. Even when I was climbing towers and stuff like that, there was a couple women there. I worked under a woman who was, I want to say she was a foreman. She was like the team lead, and she ended up helping us out in some site over in Oklahoma, trying to help troubleshoot this tower that we were trying to fix up. It was a clusterfuck, as the Army would say, and there was problems left and right. So, yeah, they can be competent, but outside of in these more risky jobs and environments where death can occur easily if you're not careful, and easily if the equipment is defective, faulty, failing. Now, in some cases, this is a slight side topic here. When it comes down to some of the equipment, check and see where it's made, where it came from. China and cast steel, that's a real problem with safety equipment, because that kind of steel, that kind of iron, that cast stuff, doesn't hold up well under pressure and just snaps. And keep in mind, some of these towers can go up to or more than 2,000 feet up in the air. I've been over 250 feet easily. Now, getting up there is a bit tricky just because of the lack of ladders, and it's a mess. Water towers are probably the ones I hated climbing up the most, just because it was pegs sticking out, and sometimes they were like 2 feet apart.
communicate and behave. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the economy is getting pretty bad, and even though that affects everybody, men are the ones who are expected to pay, so this puts us at an increasing disadvantage.
I have not been on a date in years. The last time I think I went on any date was 2012, I think. 2012 to 2015, and since then I have not been on a single date. Wait, scratch that. The last time that I actually have decent memories was then, but I had 1 or 2 dates since then. Ugh.
Comparative to women as we age. Then when we get out into the dating world, if you don't have any money, that's going to be a problem. If you can't compete on the dating apps, which most men cannot, that's going to be a problem. If you're not okay with her having an OnlyFans or...
That's another issue that's not addressed. Competition. The church doesn't recognize competition well. Like, they do not do that. The one thing is, when you're online, the competition is very fierce. And if you pretend to be a woman and you get some pictures together, you make a profile, you'll see that for yourself. Other people have done it, they've talked about it, and they report it. And then, well, how are you ever going to pick one person to settle down with? And the church does do a decent job when talking about leading and going to a relationship. They do a good job with that, with taking the steps to find the right person, and they identify that through scripture and through solid biblical teachings, structuring up a foundation to build upon for the rest of your life. The internet and online dating and all that, the structure is not really there. The foundation is not set.
Instagram or whatever, it's going to take some women off the table because they have so much attention. So a lot of men are playing catch up at this point in life when that didn't used to be the case. So our parents and grandparents did not have any of these problems.
It is advised, and I will repeat this from previous videos, it's advised to focus on your finances first so that you can pay for the relationship if it ever pops up. There's a cost to all of this, and you don't want to be hit up in the middle. I'm currently talking I talked to a friend a few days ago who's struggling with a failing relationship, and there are kids involved, and he is without a job. He's depressed, he's heartbroken, he's not doing so hot. I do not know his current situation, so I'll have to reach out and see how he's doing.
They just sort of grew up, got jobs, and married whoever was nearby. Have you ever thought of it like, would your mother have married your father if she had Tinder? Would she have chosen him? There's stuff going on in these...
I would ask my mom, my birth mom, so to speak, but frankly, I don't even know how that conversation would turn out. I have accepted that some things are beyond my control and that it's fine. It's fine. There's no real stress or worry about that. One of the things is, if you're adopted, you have to accept what is there. And you kind of already bypass this process. This right here.
Phases of life for us that would have been unheard of even one generation ago. I once had a job where I worked with a girl. We had the same job. I had more experience. We had layoffs, and later she matched with me on Bumble and came to hook up. And I said, would you like to continue doing this? And she told me that I didn't have my life together enough. We were living in the same place, in the same job market, and we came from the same...
I can actually verify something similar to that with a somewhat attractive young black woman. It did not end well, but I don't remember how it ended. I really don't. It could have ended when the job... This was years ago in 2013, I think. And the job could have ended... Sorry, the relationship could have ended when the job ended. But I cannot remember for the life of me of how things ended there for me. I do remember her. I do remember some other things. I don't know. Maybe I chose to forget that memory on purpose. I'm not sure.
job and I had more experience, and she was getting $120K a year to do some like women's leadership job or something, and I was driving for Uber. So, I think a lot of people are really underestimating how much easier this makes things. So then if you can actually get to this point, you as a man, you have to take everything that you've managed to put together over the course of your life.
This is what I've heard of. I cannot verify that part right there. I'm hearing that is what the case is, and how men are not supposed to hide their wealth, their money, their finances. Now, I think in the UK, this is worse in the sense that, like, if you withhold any financial support, that would be on lines or on grounds of abuse, which is punishable by the courts, if I recall correctly. I do not live in the UK. I'm not really worried about the laws there, but I've heard of some things. I've seen a couple of videos, and this seems to be where they're at right now.
And put it all on the table for someone who is probably not doing the same. Even though women are not having a hard time in the workplace, men are still generally expected to provide, while women generally keep more of their money.
The irony to all this is that men would still be working and building and saving up to provide, because it's kind of who we are. We want to protect, we want to build, we want to just have more of what we already have. It just kind of runs within us. It's like we want to be productive, we want to be busy, we want to have and do and be and so much more. It's in our blood. That's the
for
irony.
themselves. We've all heard, my money is my money, his money is my money. I found this great little video about that.
But I just have a quick question. My husband won't see all of my accounts, right? I have like 8 different bank accounts, but my husband only knows about 2 of them. I've just been secretly saving for years in case I ever need to. No, say no more. I don't need to see those statements. So as far as I'm concerned, they don't exist.
Yeah, so I don't love the idea that my wife might be hiding money. Of course.
You gotta know who you're getting into a relationship with. Is there trust? Is there commitment, loyalty, honesty? And as a further recommendation, as what I have put together from other people, is that it's best if you have a stable relationship, guide it offline. Take the temptation away. Because as it is, we want to, we like eye candy, men and women alike. And it's very tempting to be online when there's eye candy everywhere. It's like, how do you stay loyal and faithful when there's a whole bunch of temptations nearby? Set yourself up for success, not for failure. Strengthen what is there, remove temptations, all of that. This is crucial for success. Yeah, others are probably going to absolutely hate this. It's like, how do you lose weight when you're over, in my case, how do I lose weight when I'm when I'm a couple pounds over and I'm having health issues? Dieting, watching my calories, exercising. It's not fun, but there are ways to make this work, and getting help is needed too. All right.
I'm not allowed to do that. All of my money has to be on the table, and there's about a 1/3 chance that you're going to be taking it to party with other dudes in the house that I bought for you. Divorce laws have changed.
I can't verify that myself personally, but I've seen enough videos of guys going into their own homes and finding their wife or girlfriend in bed or on the couch, no clothes on, and the guy's like, "What the fuck, man?" And he's just going on and on. Now, in some cases, the guy already knew about this, and he's just like showing others people, like, yeah, this is what's happened. I've seen this over 20 times, somewhere between 20, 50, maybe even 100 times, between 50 and 100 times. I've seen this time and time again. Unbelievable.
Too. You used to need a really good reason to get divorced, but now it can happen.
Military point here. Adultery is not prosecuted in the military anymore that I am aware of. Unless things have changed recently, it's just like a misdemeanor or minor issue. It's not something that will get you chaptered out or thrown in jail or anything like that.
just because someone is not happy. They even write songs about it. Check this out. I have to mute it for copyright. I'll read it to you. Might be the only guy who didn't send me hearted eyes in reply to my latest story. We work well on paper. We don't argue. We don't.
She's extremely attractive. She really is. I have a thing for blondes. Perfect face, perfect features, all of that. Maybe women who are adventurous, quote unquote, are the ones where you can't be safe with. You have to risk it all. You have to do your best. Do not apologize for what you're doing, all of that. So I have a couple of thoughts here that I may work on later down the road for a separate video about taking the lead. The Bible does support men taking the lead, but I would have to look more into that. I'm wondering if that's worth it, though. I'm going to write that down when I'm done with this, just because it's a good topic. Taking the lead.
But lighting scented candles just won't relight up our
See?
fire. And right there she goes, ah. It ain't that bad. It's just not what I wanted. Don't want to live this life half-hearted. Hang on, here it comes.
That's who she reminds me of. She reminds me of Lexa, this one chick that I met up in a summer camp in 2003. That's who she reminds me of. Man, I'm getting old. Sheesh.
I want fireworks and flames. Don't want safe, tame, practical. That ain't enough. That ain't love. This is the squircle of unconsciousness. It represents how people don't know how relationships work, and so they think
the beauty of not knowing how relationships work is you can explore, you can find, you can discover with the other person, which is another reason why sex should be preserved until marriage, is because there's a lot to explore and discover together. And if you've done that already before being with the other person, it's not fun, it's not satisfying, it's boring. And there's a lot other issues too, not just talking about diseases or trust issues or whatever, but there's a lot that is lost when two people cannot explore the same thing together because one's already been through it, or both might have already been through that. Sex should be satisfying. It should be intimate. It should be personal. It should mean something. It shouldn't just be I don't know, a discounted cheeseburger for $2. I can't think of a better analogy. Sex should mean something, and it should be worth something. Of course, it's not treated very well in today's world. It's not private, it's public.
Relationship is going to go like this, and then it turns a corner. I think she's at the dissatisfied part. You can't have everything is exciting all the time. Good
Bingo.
Choices are boring. No relationships are going to be fun the whole time. They're all going to have spots where...
How can things be fun the whole time? Literally. You're living life. Things happen. Ups, downs, seasons change. Good times, hard times, bad times. People passing away, babies being born. You got to take the good with the bad. Otherwise, you're staying stuck. You're not really living life when you're stuck.
There's no fire. But she don't want safe, tame, practical. That ain't enough. That's not even love.
She don't want stability.
Look how passionate she is about dumping her husband. That's real. I can spot a faker. And she even sings about other men giving her...
I'm fucking depressed. And I want to be passionate about living and discovering what is out there. Me being deployed, there's a lot of shit that happened, but one of the things that I began to understand the fire that was stoking inside was being just... There was so much out there that I want to explore. That requires money. Going out to see the world, seeing different cultures, different places, the 7 wonders of the world, that sort of thing. Going to Japan, just seeing what it looks like down there. And yeah, I've heard Japan is a great place to go to. I think Germany used to be, but I don't know. But man, have a passion, live life, find something to pursue, to love. Little rant there. I mean, I hit a depression phase, a really bad depression phase yesterday. It was debilitating, it was crippling, and I was like, I need to get offline for a while. I just cannot be online. Can't really make the right impact that I want to, or yeah, just need to take a break now and then.
Googly eyes on her Instagram stories. So this girl is what I would call an excitement chaser. She starts out her new relationships excited, and over time gets bored when they're not chaotic, and then by the time we notice she's bored, she's already got a new guy lined up.
I can verify this because what I've read, what I've heard, what I've seen, videos, people I've talked to, all of that. I can verify that.
And this has pretty nasty effects on us. So your relationship satisfaction is going to change over time, but your stability is not supposed to. That's what marriage is. That's what it's for. Even when you start feeling like things are not as fun, you have to remember that commitments are what...
Commitments, yes. But it's also recommended that you keep date, like you go on date nights, you take steps to preserve and build up the romance and all of that. So you have to set aside time to make it work there. This is what I've heard a couple of times when talking to others, including my parents, on like when they would go out for date nights and all that. Hence why I've had so many babysitters now that I think about it when I was younger. That's actually pretty damn smart. I'm just now recalling this after I don't know how many years. Wow.
Gets you through the swings. I actually have a little theory that this takes about a year. Obviously, we get up and go to sleep with the sun.
Courtship takes about a year. That's tying dating with the church in a biblical sort of way. Your intent is to marry. You will like to get to know the other person, and you spend time doing so, and at the end of the year you will see if you can propose to her or not.
And women have changes in their hormones and emotions with the moon, and I think that a year is the amount of time that it takes to find somebody and have that strong emotional connection, get pregnant, and have a child. It's about 1 year altogether. And this girl is making a spiritual experience out of a biological process, and she's allowed...
That's actually happening all over. If you take a look, you will see this happening all over. They're replacing what is spiritual with what is biological. This is another reason why I have issues with some guys in the manosphere, the MGTOW groups, these men's groups, and all that. You're ignoring the spiritual components. You're taking out anything that is not physical, and you're like, it doesn't matter, fuck that, who cares, blah, blah, blah. You know, there's some people who believe the whole, like, religion, God, is for losers. People fuck up, they make mistakes, and I would be like, when's the last time you made a mistake? It's unbelievable. Let's just take God out of the entire picture, why don't we? It doesn't even matter what you believe. Assuming there's a God in what you believe, you take God out of the picture, everything changes, everything gets worse. Because people are inherently evil and wrong and fallible, all of that. That's what I believe, that's what I've seen. There's a lot of shit that proves it. Murders, theft, the list goes on and on with the crimes that have been committed. The crimes and atrocities and all that. Also, cheating and relationship issues in here as well. Yeah, you've seen some of that in the video here.
To end the marriage over it. So it's not that I don't want a partner, it's just that a lot of us don't.
Anyone who wants marriage does not want a partner. They don't want to have someone who puts in a little bit here and there. They want to have someone fully committed. They want to have a wife, a husband, someone who is committed so they can have a family or have someone to live together to spend time with. And stability. They don't want to have stresses and worries, and they don't want to have to take care of every little thing themselves. Ugh, I'm getting too passionate about this thing.
Have what we need to build a partnership, and even if we get it, it could fall apart immediately. She could squircle herself into believing it's not love and have a phone in her pocket with 14.
That goes back to your foundations, what you grew up believing. You're going to grow up crooked with wrong, incorrect values. I'm thinking it's like a stack of books not put up properly, you know? There's like a straight pull, and then there's a stack of books that are leaning off to the side that about ready to topple over. What are you growing up believing in or believing on? What are you building up as far as your foundation? Do you need to tear some things apart to remove some faulty, incorrect, inaccurate stuff in your life? People may say it's too late to change, but that's not exactly the issue because you're still breathing, you're still here. And you know what? God does not look, and this is supported biblically right here, God does not look at things the way man looks at things. And in many cases, even in the Bible, not just here, God has used people when they were in their 40s, their 50s, and with them being old. Look at Abraham when God fulfilled his promise of having a child, and he was like in his 80s. You're going to be the grandfather of an entire nation, a sea of people, and he believed that. His wife didn't. She had issues. Oh man, don't get me wrong, like sometimes time is needed, but patience is a virtue for a reason, and I'm pretty bad with patience myself. Anyway, moving on.
100 horny guys on it, and then I end up here.
Oh, horny guys. Horny guys is what drives the world. Horny guys and willing women. OnlyFans, adult content, adult communities. Oh God, I think God has a bit of a humorous side there about like, so how do we get people to get into marriages willingly? Let's design them a certain way so that horniness actually matters. Oh. Yes, God has a sense of humor with what he's done in my own life with this personally right there. Oh man. I'm not going into it because that's a topic for another time. It's a funny story though.
So what you've done by fighting for equality is you've basically said, hey, you want to play a game of chess? I get all queens though. Hey, where are you going?
You guys still want to get...
Apparently that is also supported by the family courts and the laws where shit hits the fan and the man gets burned. This is what I've heard. I cannot verify that myself, but there's been enough that I've seen that this seems to be the case, where the odds are not just stacked in the women's favor, but like the laws protect women at the expense of men. I'm pointing this out because the whole thing about women having all queens seems to be true because of that.
Married? Like, is that still a thing?
I hope this all made it clear why it's less of a thing.
Alright, that's it. Ah, shit. No! Oh, Sephiroth. Very cool.